back. It's that 206 Sound podcast. I'm Radio Natalie. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I am so excited to interview our new guest because he is part of a really great band that really gives me ethereal vibes, and he's been a big part in the Seattle music scene for probably over 10 years at this point, I would want to say, maybe even more than that. We're going to find out today. This is Mitch from High Crime. Hi,
What's up?
Mitch.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
The drive here was pretty easy for you?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I just forget how congested traffic is during the week, and then I come here on a weekend and I'm like, oh my god, this is so nice.
I have the luxury of not doing like a normal kind of big boy job, so like I never have to drive in rush hour. Really,
Oh my
it's
gosh.
not that big of a deal generally.
What do you do?
Full-time musician at this point. I teach guitar lessons when I'm not doing shows. And
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You learned that in the pandemic, right? Or learn to teach music and music theory?
yeah, it was before COVID. I was doing a lot of the kind of typical local musician scene stuff where I'm working like 5 different odd jobs, and I was working at a catering company. I was a personal assistant for family. I
Wow.
did some radio promotions. There was some other weird
Cool.
little stuff. But through one of those side jobs, I had one guitar student, and I was like making way more per hour doing that. But I
Yeah.
didn't have the roster. And then when I lost all my other jobs during COVID,
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm gonna lean
RIP.
into this, and eventually kind of got to the point where I could do it full time. And yeah,
That's
I'm
sick.
full time self employed musician, which is something I
Dude,
try really hard not to take for granted because that's why I'd worked.
it's so hard,
really hard to do,
too.
yeah.
It's really hard. But I saw High Crime for the first time at a Barboza show. It was actually on my 27th birthday. It was like June 2023.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was our album release show
Yeah,
for
and
the
I think-
previous album. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Lovely Colors opened, and I just was immediately just drawn to the sound and just how peaceful it was. And I did eventually formally meet you through James. I don't think I talked to you at that show. Maybe I did. I just was a little drunk. But I think
Yeah,
I
there
met
was a lot of
you-
chaos at that show.
It was crazy,
Yeah.
and all my friends went. We were all loud, and it was wild. But it was such a good show, and I think I formally met you maybe a couple months ago.
At Green Day? Or
Was it at Green Day?
maybe?
I
That,
just
that
remember
was the first. I
just-
know we had seen each other, but I think that was the first time we actually changed words a little bit. But this is
Yeah.
still already now a couple minutes into this. It's probably the longest we've had a conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Uninterrupted.
It's always been
Which
so
is-
brief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you done that much for this show? It's weird to have your first conversation with someone on camera. doing
It
that
is,
kinda
and this
thing.
is this is my second time doing it.
I figured, yeah.
But yeah, thank you for coming. I'm really excited to talk to you. So
Yeah.
before the cameras went on, one of my questions on here was, are you from Seattle? But you're not from Seattle. You are from
I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, suburbs right outside of it.
Hey, how was
Well,
that like?
It was a good experience growing up there. It's a place I don't have any interest in living in anymore. I'm so
Yeah.
connected with Seattle since I moved here. But yeah, a lot of little things are great about growing up there. You get both extremes of kind of the weather.
Yeah.
I do kind of like hot summers and snowy winters, which we don't fully get either here.
Yeah.
Growing up, fireflies, the lightning bugs in my backyard, all the kind of stuff.
Gosh.
Big thunderstorms. There's tons of good stuff about the Midwest.
It was funny because I was
Yeah.
talking to someone yesterday who's from, I think, Maryland
Hmm.
or maybe North, I don't know, something from the East.
Sure.
And she was talking about oh yeah, I used to pick fireflies from my backyard. And I'm like, that sounds like something out of a movie because we don't have that here, which would be so cool.
Oh
if
yeah,
we
it was just
did.
normal, but it's because I don't see him anymore. It's something I think back romantically on now as well.
Yeah. Well, that sounds beautiful.
It's beautiful. You catch them in the glass container, poke holes in the lid, put blades of grass in the thing, and then they die the next morning.
Well, that's beautiful.
Circle
Life
of
or
life,
death.
baby.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. When did you move to Seattle?
I just had my 10-year anniversary this year. It was
No way.
June 28th, 2014.
You
when I
remember the
moved out here.
exact date and
Because I remember
everything.
we released an album on that day, 2018. Yeah,
Was this
4
is
years
this
and-
High Crime?
yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Oh no, you're good. I
There've
just
been
wanna
a
make
few
sure.
kind of different projects I've been involved in turn, but yeah, High Crimes, The Kids Still Got It came out on
Oh,
my
I
4 or
love that
5 year
album.
album, 4 or 5 year anniversary moving to Seattle.
That's such a good album. I
Thank
think
you.
what I like about that album, just to get into it specifically, is You guys aren't afraid to, or you guys weren't afraid to make long songs,
Oh,
which I
right.
thought was super cool because I would like listening to it and I thought like we were in or like that I was like listening to like a different song. And then I saw it was like 4 minutes and then it's like an 8 minute song. And I thought that was super sick.
Nice. Yeah, there's a song called Channel Surfing.
That was what it
At the point,
was.
that's an 8.5 minute song, which was the longest thing I'd written up to that point. That was kind of a suite of music where there are like different little sections to it. And then I really kind of ran with that concept on this new album, which we
Yeah.
don't have to get into yet if you want to go
Well, we
chronologically.
will get there,
Yeah.
don't you worry.
Yeah.
So a little bit more about like just your background. So, how were you exposed to music growing up?
Um, just normal. My parents, not music freaks, but definitely listen to music. They had a bunch of CDs around the house. They would put them on weekends. As
Mm,
they're cleaning the house or just entertaining people. So I think my formative music years were definitely kind of inspired by taking my parents' music tastes. Like I still to this day love Billy Joel, Fleetwood Mac, the Beatles, a lot of the
yeah.
'60s, '70s, David Bowie.
You said on the website Electric Light Orchestra.
Oh yes, yeah.
So I love them too.
Did you see them when they were just here a few weeks ago?
No, I didn't,
That
but I really wanted to. Did you go?
yeah, that was my second time seeing
Oh
them.
my
Yeah,
God, how was it?
it's real. It's incredible.
Was that
He,
Climate Pledge?
that was Climate Pledge,
Oh,
and then
sweet.
2019 he played Tacoma Dome. But it
Oh,
was
wow.
yeah for a and you know how it is. Big stadium arena shows. They don't sound as good and they don't have the intimate feel. But like
Yeah,
it sounded amazing and it's stuff. I've got to see a lot of my bucket list people. He was one of them for sure, and then I got to see him twice.
that's
And his voice,
crazy.
if I know if I'm saying this right, I think a lot of older artists as they age, their voice deepens and they need to change the
Hmm.
key of their songs, and it just doesn't sound exactly the same. You can see the legacy artists fade a little bit sometimes. He
Yeah,
sounds exactly the same.
that's impressive.
Yeah,
It's really like impressive to see how musicians are able to like take care of their voice over the years because it is a lot of like traction on your voice to be
right.
doing that so much. Like I think James Taylor, I feel like would be a good example if you know him.
Yeah, yeah,
His
yeah.
voice has like always been very calming and soft, and he just
Right.
sounds exactly the same. He just has no hair now. So like, so
I'll hope to hang on to my hair for a while.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, you look like you're like the hairline king, as people say.
Yes.
At least that's what I say.
Yeah.
So, so okay, you were exposed to music through your parents, and you are a self-taught musician.
Correct.
When
Yeah.
did when did that start?
Probably third grade initially, where uh, none my parents or sister they don't play any instruments. My dad's the youngest of seven kids, and none of my extended family, aunts, uncles, or cousins were ever musical.
Oh,
It's weird
so you're
how
like the
little
black
music there.
sheep.
A little bit. No one else was musical at all. But yeah, third grade, I had a friend who his parents forced him to take piano lessons, and I
Mm,
went over to his house to play, just like play Pokemon or whatever.
hell yeah.
Uh, and then his mom was saying like, Richard, before you play with Mitch, you have to do your piano. She's like,
He was like,
so he
"Fine,
went over and
mom."
yeah, but he went over and started to play some of Pure Release, and I'm
Oh,
just like, dude, can you show me that? I thought that was the coolest thing that he could make that sound. And
yeah.
he's like, no, I don't want to. Let's just go. So I made his mom show me how to do that.
Oh,
And then I asked
yeah.
for a little digital keyboard for my birthday or Christmas that year and never
Perfect.
got good at it. But that was when I just started trying to teach myself how to play. And then a few years after that, through like lawn mowing money, bought myself an electric guitar
Yes,
off
I have that
eBay.
written down here. You bought your first guitar at 13 with the money you made from lawn
Oh,
mowing.
I didn't even know I put that on my
Yeah,
website,
you
but I
did.
did.
It
Yeah.
like it was cute.
Nice.
Yeah. Did you do your
Yeah.
own like lawn mowing business?
Not a business. My parents didn't pay me to mow my own lawn, by the way. I'd never made like an
Yeah,
allowance or chore
me
money that way. But
either.
like there were like two neighbors' yards that I mowed and made like $20 each.
But back at
For
13, that's like you're rich.
$20?
Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
Dude, it went such a long way back
Yeah.
then. Oh my God, $20 now, maybe a quarter of a tank of gas, not even that.
Right.
God, so sad. So you are self-taught. How many instruments do you know?
It's I always try to like it's like less than you think because for people that don't know, if you play guitar, which is my primary instrument,
Yeah,
you're going to be pretty comfortable on other fretted string instruments.
that's very true.
So the guitar to bass, like all your dexterity skills and your right and left hand, it carries over, and it also for
Yeah.
me that also carries over. So like guitar, bass, ukulele, mandolin, banjo, those are all things I'm somewhat comfortable on.
Yeah.
Banjo the least comfortable, but yeah, all those I play a lot. Some piano, and that's kind of the big extent. Anything after that is just a toy, and I'm just kind of playing around
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the new album I just did, I play every instrument on there
Oh
except
my god.
drums. Drums, I still kind of need to get other people to really do a proper job at it. I'll do
Yeah.
some like sampling and programming of drums, but I can't really sit down at a kid and play it like I would like to.
Yeah. It's hard to do everything, even when
Yeah,
you're self-taught. And I thought when I was reading about you and doing my research, you added something on your website that I really resonate to because I taught myself to play guitar.
nice.
And I've been playing since I was like 16. And you were, obviously it's such a great quality to be able to teach yourself that. But as you get older and more comfortable with how you taught yourself to play guitar, and then you go get a lesson or play with someone else, you see how some of your habits, you learn some bad habits on the way.
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's probably some. I'm still not a virtuosic musician, and if I play with other people, I'm gonna be nervous how many bad notes I'm
Yeah.
gonna hit. 'Cause I still like I know some scales and things like that, but there's like
Yeah.
they'll be able to know like, oh, he's just doing the minor pentatonic there. He's not
Yeah.
really getting super
Yeah.
fancy with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's something I need to be cognizant of when I teach other kids or adults how to play guitar. There's
Yeah.
just some weird things I do. Not to be too boring into the weeds of
No,
things, but the
I'm into
way
this.
I
Sounds
hold a
good.
D chord is a different finger position than most people do.
Oh, you don't do like the regular like
No, mine, I do my index finger on the E string, and most people do their middle finger on the E string.
yeah.
And when my students are watching me play guitar, they're trying to copy my fingers, and I'll like
Like,
adjust to.
don't.
Well, it's like I actually really like the way I do it because it allows me to do some slides and
Yeah.
transitions that other people would have a harder time doing. But for whatever reason, it's a comfortable shape for me and not comfortable for many other people.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah,
Yeah.
there's yeah.
I don't think there's really any wrong way of doing it, but there
No,
was like a
definitely, yeah.
couple things that I mean, one for like 10 years I didn't know how to hold my pick correctly. Like I was holding it like this
Oh,
and playing
gotcha.
it instead of like I don't know, you got to like hold it like that and like wedge it
I
between your
don't hold it
thumb.
that way. A lot of
You
people do.
don't.
I
Okay.
teach people you can do it both ways. I kind of
Oh,
I'll
he's
get
got one on deck.
yeah. We'll
You
see
can show the
like
camera there.
yeah.
Oh, you got the yellow
So
Dunlop.
yeah, the my little turtle guy's faded on there. But yeah, I kind of put the pick in between these two fingers with the and then kind of the thumb on top. That's the way
Ooh,
I do it. That's
that's what
comfortable for
I
me.
did too. So that's not totally wrong.
No, if it worked for you, it works. Yeah.
Because that just made
That's
my
comfortable
whole
for me,
week.
but yeah, I think a lot of people they do the pinch
It's
like
kind of
that.
weird. I feel like I don't have as much control of it when I
Yeah,
do
I don't
that.
either.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my students, it was maybe just this within the last year, they were showing me that way, and I'm like, really, you do it that way? And so I tried it, and it didn't connect for me.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know. It feels like you don't get a good grip on it.
yeah. So you
Yeah.
play guitar? Do you also kind of write songs too, or yeah,
I am so bad at writing songs. I have tried so many times and I
yeah,
just don't know why, but I love to perform. I love to sing and anything, but just when it comes to songwriting, like I'm a good writer in other aspects, like with
mm-hmm.
journalism writing and
Right.
storytelling, but with songs it just doesn't click for some reason.
I have good friends who they people I've been in bands with even who they can help me with my songs when they are tasked with doing their own thing. It's a lot of self doubt I think with some people where
I think it is.
you
Yeah.
just expect your first 20 songs to suck, but go through the process of writing them and just learn how to write songs and build the habit of doing it if it's something
Yeah.
you want to do. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I think everybody just gets really caught up in here and
Right.
overthinks things
I
when
don't
that's
release every
not.
song I write because, yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
yeah. So getting into more of your music, the
Yeah, yeah.
formation of High Crime. So it's so funny that you work with Brielle because I didn't know her directly, but she went
Uh-huh.
to the same college as I did. And I think she graduated, I think a year before I had started there at Central Washington.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And so she
Yeah, so you didn't know
knows.
each other.
No, we
Yeah.
didn't, but she just knew, like, I just heard of her through friends because I think she was at the radio station and other stuff there.
And you did all the journalism stuff. She was the editor in chief at the Pulse magazine, which I assume is still there.
It is still there.
Yeah.
it was a class I had to take for credit.
Uh-huh.
So it wasn't like I was like joining it because I wanted to,
Oh,
even
right,
though it
yeah.
was so fun. But I did write like some articles, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But and then it's funny because she just had a lot of connections with people through college, and then I realized that like James is really tight with you guys and like
Mhm.
talks so highly of High Crime.
He's
He's
the
really
ultimate
excited that we're
homie.
talking today. He
Yeah.
says hi, by the way.
I say hi back. What's up, buddy?
But it was just crazy because I was like, I know that girl. It's Brielle.
Yeah.
So how did you guys meet?
We met through radio. We were both working at Warm 6.9.
No way.
At
You were on the
Hubbard
promo
Radio.
team. I
We were on
worked
the
there
Hubbard.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What years were you there?
I graduated college in spring 2019. So I started in September 2019 on the move-in team.
Oh,
The
so you're
promotions
okay.
team.
So we overlapped a little bit.
That's always
But-
happens.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were both working at the promo team, and I think the first shift we worked together, we kind of had a conversation. We're just like, so what kind of music do you actually like? Because I think a lot of us, we were just
No.
like,
Nobody listens to
and yeah.
Love Warm, but
So we
Yeah.
kind of had. I was like, "Oh, I'm a musician," and these kind of because of my influences. She was talking about, "Oh, I try to write songs, but I haven't really done much before." And then at that point, I was trying to start a band. When I moved here 10-ish years ago, I joined a couple bands to get experience, kind of like playing in venues and trying to network and meet other musicians.
yeah.
But before I moved here, when I was in Missouri, I started my own college band where we recorded, put out albums. I put out an album when I was in high school. Those aren't on streaming. Don't look for them.
I won't.
But
Do you have like the hard copies at
I
least?
do. Yeah, we press CDs,
Gotta-
and I
you
remember
gotta
I
save
was
that.
like I'll get back to my main thing, but like as a high school senior, like selling like 80 copies of a thing I made. It was just like, yeah, I'm so cool.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah.
feel like a rock star.
I haven't sold 80 copies of a CD for a long time. CD
That's
sales are nothing
crazy. I know.
these days.
They
but,
are coming back though. Like
yeah,
you know how
yeah.
vinyl to us,
Right,
it's like
right.
CDs to them. Anyways.
Yeah, so I was still trying to get my own kind of project off the ground, my own original songs instead of just playing in other people's bands. So I just invited Brielle, come over to my little bedroom studio. Let's try doing something together.
Yeah.
No big plan, but just let's play music. And she brought in a couple songs, I brought in a couple songs, and before we know it, we kind of had an EP that we had written
Wow.
and recorded it together. We had never played live at this point and really didn't have intentions of playing live because I was doing these other projects and it was just two of us. We weren't able to really get the full band sound at that point. But weirdly, that first EP we put out, it ended up starting to get way more attention than the other bands I was playing in that actually were like
Really?
doing shows around town. Without us ever having played a show, we started to get played on KEXP.
Yeah.
And there's a local TV show called Art Zone with Nancy Guppy. We got an email from her team saying, "We want you to be the musical guest on our TV show." So I'm like, really?
And this was just with your first EP.
Yeah, just with our first EP.
That's
So
like unheard of.
yeah, so our very
dude.
first show we ever did was like for a television thing. But
What?
yeah, so
That's so wild.
it was the coolest. So we said, yes, we want to do that. We can't turn that opportunity down. But now we need to like get other people to join the band to make this TV thing sound good. We didn't just want to do it acoustic guitar and vocals.
Yeah.
That has its place, but for TV, we wanted to make it
You
legit.
wanted the big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got a couple other people to join us for the TV thing. And as we were rehearsing for that, it's like, oh, this is the band. Let's keep doing this. The other people were having fun doing this.
Mhm.
I'm sure they thought it was cool to be on TV as well and wanted to do more things like that.
Yeah.
And High Crime just became at one point a 5-piece band of all of us playing shows. And at that point, it kind of shifted from being just me and Brielle being a recording duo to now it's a full band, and we're kind of writing things as we rehearse and
Yeah.
kind of doing things the classical band route.
That's crazy. It just seems like it was kind of meant to all come together, especially just because, yeah, I was looking at your website and just doing research, obviously. And like,
Appreciate the
yeah,
research.
of course. And yeah, KXB with the first EP, like, I was like, that doesn't happen. Like, you really gotta, like, did you push? Like, did you send stuff to people?
It's the thing
You lost your pick.
I noticed that. Did you notice how I also tried to play it cool and didn't
Yeah,
reach
I
for
should.
it?
I'm sorry. I should have called it out.
But No, it's a thing where it's every industry, but definitely the music industry. Who you know can matter.
Mhm.
And in addition to working radio at Hubbard, like I was
Mhm.
active in my college radio station and wanted to be involved with KXP in some way. So I started volunteering there,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and there's probably hundreds of different volunteers there. But I know some of the DJs there a little bit, so I kind of figured, all right, when I email them my music, they probably get hundreds of emails a day. They might
Mhm.
listen to my music for 15 seconds as opposed to 5 seconds from other people because they see my name.
Yeah.
And I had a couple of DJs who they listened to the music I emailed them and they connected with it and started playing it. And and that's gratifying because like friends and family they may say nice things, but the KXP DJ they're not going to play the music if they just to be nice to you because it's a big enough station.
Yeah.
Uh, they don't want to put garbage out there. So it's
Totally get
really
that.
gratifying that something I recorded and mixed in my bedroom on really crappy headphones was being played on the radio and I could see the results of when it gets played on the radio. Like, oh, all of a sudden a few more Instagram followers come in the minute
Yeah.
it's being played on air.
That's so
Uh,
crazy.
yeah, and when that started happening, KXP has just been one of the best things that's happened to us. In addition, just like playing our music on radio, Cheryl Waters has made us the KXP Song of the Day a few
Oh, that's
times,
so
and
cool.
in addition to that being part of like kind of a podcast download that goes to I don't know how many thousands of people, um, it also gets added to these big kind of Spotify playlists that KXP does, and through those I just saw in our own kind of small scale way, our streaming numbers go up and more international listens and people. It was the first time where our live shows went from just being friends and family of the band to actually having fans of the band that
That's
came to
so
see us. That
cool.
we don't know these people, but they were coming to see us. There'd be one time we were playing a show at the Sunset Tavern and someone came up to me after the show and like, "Oh, I drove from Canada to see you guys."
No
Like, you crossed the
way,
border?
really?
Yeah.
You crossed the
Yeah.
border.
That was what I was thinking.
That's
Yeah.
so
And I've
cool.
had a bunch
Wow.
when we go and play Leavenworth, Washington, which has kind of been an annual summer retreat for us.
Yeah.
I have people that they'll drive from different parts of the state to see us. Like, oh, Seattle's a little too far, but I'll make it to Leavenworth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because it is like the half, sort of
a
like the
little bit.
halfway
Yeah,
point, halfway more north, I would say.
sure. Yeah, between
Yeah.
Spokane or whatever like that. Yeah,
Yeah, because like me and my friends, when I went to school in Ellensburg, which is like smack dab of
it is. It is.
Washington,
Yeah.
we would go to Oktoberfest and just get in my friend's
Oh,
like van
perfect.
and just drive up and make a field trip out of it. So it's super fun. That's crazy though.
Yeah, yeah.
Crossing state borders for high crime.
I know.
That's a new level.
Yeah, that we've been really lucky to just have supportive people like that. We were doing a tour a few years ago, playing a show in Portland, yeah, Portland, Oregon. And after we did that show, some guy came up to us and said, "Oh, you guys mentioned you're on tour. Where are you going next?" And we're like, "Oh, well, we're gonna hit Ashland, then we'll hit San Francisco." And he's like, "Oh, I'll be in San Francisco in a couple days. I'll."
That's so
So he came to that
cool.
show as well, and yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
But it's been a really not only our kind of local Seattle scene, but just there's a DIY community of musicians in general that it's been a really uplifting, supportive scene. I feel isn't a guarantee in every kind of community. They're just
Yeah.
from an outsider perspective. I suspect that places like Nashville or LA, there may be more competitiveness, and
Yeah.
if someone gets a cool opportunity, they may not be as keen to share
That's a
that
good
opportunity.
point.
Where the people that came before me, if they got some cool thing, I can hit them up, be like, "Oh, who'd you talk to for this?" And they'll share the contacts or even directly hook us up. And that's been a really cool thing about Seattle. That
I noticed that with
yeah,
Seattle too, is there's not like, I'm sure there is competition to some degree, but
everyone
it's
has
not.
egos, myself
Yeah.
included. But yeah,
Yeah, it just seems like everybody's very connected with each other and wants
yeah,
to support each other, which is very cool because that's what music should be. So it's just great that we live in a city that's like that.
yeah,
So getting more into the music, when I was really listening to High Crime, like the whole way, I started from like your very first EP all the way to your current album, which we will talk about, Spirit and Candor. Um, I think a couple words that came to my mind when listening to it was like whimsical and ethereal,
sure, I'll
almost I
take
would
those.
say.
Yeah,
It's just like I can't really explain it. It just feels like it's like very calming and relaxing, but also there's a lot of intricate details when it comes to like obviously the guitar playing
yeah.
and just the musicality of it all. When you were in that small recording space with Brielle when you first connected.
Still the place I record, by the way. I
Oh,
still have the same
love
little
that.
room. Yeah.
Um, what kind of music were you wanting to build with High Crime, if you had any genre in mind?
That was something I never really had a model where I'm like, this is the kind of music we're gonna make. There was never a mission statement for High Crime, or maybe in the back of my mind, the mission statement was that I want this to be a band where we can do anything. Being
Mm.
someone who's obsessed with the Beatles and how differently they are 1964 to 67 to
Oh
68 to
yeah.
70, or that, or on the same album you could have them doing like a Jamaican reggae Obla D to Helter Skelter, this kind of almost heavy metal thing.
Yeah.
I wanted High Crime to be. I listen to a lot of diverse music, so I wanted my writing to be something that can be diverse as well. I don't know how much that comes out to other people because they're definitely. I can see a through line from my songwriting style from the very first EP to the present. There are some things that definitely have changed, but
Yeah.
there's a thing I'm not afraid of trying to make my music sound pretty, uh,
Love that.
and kind of light and ethereal, I guess. So that's been a through line. But no, I and also like bands like Ween, they'll do like they have an album that's country music. They'll have
Yeah.
people that
They
just go all
explore.
over. I want to do that, and I still want to do more of that.
I can definitely hear it in the albums. Like each album, you
Yeah,
can even EP, you can hear how it's like just taking it to the next level and trying new things. And I think that's super cool because I think it's cool when bands or even artists make each album different. Like one that comes to
right.
my mind is honestly Foster the People.
Oh, sure,
Like a
yeah.
lot of their albums, like it like, was a little bit more techno their first one and then like a really like experimental psych rock album and then
Hmm.
I just think it just it's like you're growing with the musician because they're not staying in one place.
Yeah, and that was something I was really cognizant about with the new album I just did, where the older albums I did, I don't think any of them were that cohesive, where there'd be like that Kid Still Got It, our first proper like album of 11 songs. It starts with like a synth pop track, and then you get
Yeah.
kind of the indie pop thing, and then there will be an acoustic ballad, and then there's kind of a progressive rock thing at the end. There isn't that much of a cohesive thing. There's probably some through line through the music, but it was something where I just tried to make. There were a lot of different sounds, and it was kind of the same thing with the album we did after that. There was also somewhat. It was all vaguely indie pop music, exploring the different sides of that.
Yeah.
But a lot of my favorite artists, they do change styles over time. So with the new album I put out just a couple weeks ago,
I
Spirit and Candor,
know it's
yeah,
so it literally just came out not that long
yeah. I don't know
ago.
when this drops, but yeah. But it was the first time where I'm like, all right, I've kind of done this indie pop thing a few times in a row. I want to purposefully drift away from that and try to get different sounds and actually try to
Yeah.
make an album that is a cohesive thing from start to finish. And the way I've always kind of written High Crime songs is it starts with me grabbing an electric guitar, sometimes a loop pedal as well.
Ooh, yeah.
Um, and then just from like doing that process, writing hundreds of songs probably, I found myself repeating myself a little bit where like I've done this chord progression before, these kind of melodic phrases, this sound, these rhythms, these styles. And I wanted to get outside my comfort zone because I kind of realized I had, at a certain point, made music an act of process instead of an act of discovery.
Ooh,
Where
yeah.
I know how to write a High Crime song now. I've done it. These are the things I've done. I've gone through this a bunch.
The formula.
Yeah, humans we're creatures of like we notice patterns and things and we like patterns and we repeat them, and I wanted to get out of that.
That
So the
makes
way I
sense,
kind of
yeah.
did this new album, which isn't necessarily how I'll do the next thing, but instead of like starting with electric guitar, first of all I'm like I'm going to do it on acoustic guitar and just get different sounds. But and you probably know this from playing guitars, like I mainly play in standard tuning, but some people
Yeah.
they'll do alternate open tunings where if you just strum the guitar without putting any fingers on it, kind of sounds pretty already, and
Mm,
people can make
mm-hmm.
interesting songs that way.
Yeah.
But I kind of took it a step further and tuned the guitar to where it just sounds like garbage. Uh,
Ooh.
and it made, and I did that because I wanted to just like, if I made a chord, I kind of knew, oh, with my theory brain, I can go here and here and here, and now I have a song. But when I tune the guitar really weirdly, I'm just making random shapes
Mhm.
on the fretboard, and I don't know what's going to sound good. And just through experimentation, I'm like, oh, that chord sounds really weird. I've probably never played that combination of notes before. That sounds
Mhm.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then from there, I'm like, okay, now where can I go from there? I don't know how any of this sounds. It was just making more random shapes, and I kind of made an album of happy accidents where I things are different and they sound good to me, but I know I've
Yeah.
accidentally discovered new scales and things like that. And just that was really exciting for me for having done a few albums and EPs and singles of kind of doing it the same way to change the process. It was a really nice way of kind of reinventing,
Yeah.
yeah, myself and style of songwriting. So I hope to do that again, whatever the next thing.
Yeah.
And maybe instead of guitar, I'll try to write a bunch of things on piano, which I haven't done that much, or
Yeah.
just find other ways to challenge myself.
It just
Yeah.
seems like you're always trying to find ways to be like the next step, like to the next level.
Yeah, because I think the way that the Beatles, they or any artists who challenge themselves to change over time, they weren't thinking, oh, let's write a song that sounds like the Beatles. They were trying to sound like, oh, there's this new thing. Let's try to do that. And they may
Yeah.
not succeed in trying to sound like what they're trying to do, but they'll find something interesting along the way.
Yeah.
And yeah, the trial and error, like for some of this album, like I'm trying to sound like Animal Collective or whatever the band
I
is.
could definitely hear
The,
that in
they're,
it.
they're, they're a persistent influence on my life. And I feel like maybe it's there a little bit, but I don't think it sounds like a ripoff of them because I fail at trying to sound like my heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and through like you find your own voice while trying to emulate others and kind of find your own way of doing it.
That's so dope. So, yes, kind of transitioning into talking about the new album.
Yep.
So, you are now solo.
Yeah.
So, I just want to clarify. So, there's like, it's just you now, nobody else is in the band?
It's the way I'm kind of thinking about it is, and this may all change, but right now the recorded music, the studio albums, that's a solo project in my mind. I had done I all I ever wanted to do was be in a band, and like being in a band is the coolest. You're hanging out with your friends and doing all this stuff. And over time there's a lot of limits that happen with being in a band where
Yeah.
one thing, whether you think you have endless opportunities, oh, I write this song, but what kind of happened is like any song I write, it needs to have two guitars, bass, drums, and vocals. That's what the band was.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of locked into that. So if me or Brielle wrote a song that, like, oh, this song, I feel like this song works really well just with an acoustic guitar and voice. The other band member was like, well, we can't play on it. That's no
Mm.
fun.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, so you don't do the song. And and there are other little things like that that kind of happen with a band where there are concessions you make working with other people, um, and sometimes people challenge you to make what you do better. But there are things in this album where I'm like, this is really weird. I want to do it, but I could see if you're in a band and you do things by committee a little bit, that
Yes.
certain weirder decisions that are harder to defend, they could get ironed out. Be like, why are you doing that one measure in an odd time? Like, we're 4/4 the rest of the time. Let's just keep it the same thing because this is hard to do
Yeah.
or whatever. But doing it solo has been really exciting for me because I don't have the same constraints of having a band. I'm loving being an
Yeah.
egomaniac dictator
You don't have to
myself. Yeah,
compromise like what you want. So
totally.
that was kind of like my follow-up question was
Yeah.
were there any fears transitioning into solo? But it seems like it's been really exciting for you.
It's been, yeah. So, and finishing the first question, it is like a solo project now, but like there's a live band that I have, and
Okay.
that may be a revolving cast of characters for a little bit. The first kind of like full band show I did earlier this year, the drummer for that wasn't able to commit long term. The
Mm-hmm.
bass player, all of them play in other projects. The bass player was going on a tour, so I'm like, all right, he can't do the next few shows. Eventually, hopefully, it becomes kind of like a crystallized live lineup. And who
Okay.
knows, maybe at some point I'll ask them to get involved with studio recording too. But right now I am really enjoying just being a solo artist. And the question you were just asking, like, no, there were. It wasn't like a. Um, I guess it was something that I was somewhat thrust into.
Mm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
because like between our first High Crime album in 2018 and our second High Crime album in 2023, it's a 5-year gap.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to take.
Thanks to COVID.
That was part of it. And
Yeah.
also just to get 4 or 5 people in a room, to like maybe you do once a week practices. And then maybe when we're recording, we might have a couple hours to do vocal takes. And then the next time we're together, we're editing those vocal takes. And then when they come back the next week, it's, I need to re-record those lines and then come back the following week and edit things. And all of a sudden, it's like a month just trying to get like one instrument down, and recording can take a long time that way. And I'm not someone who likes to work at that kind of slow of a pace. So like less than a year, it was like 8 months after we put out last year's High Crime album that I had this one ready to go. And that was really exciting for me to just be able to work at a quicker pace. And
it's hard coordinating with a bunch of people in their
it
own
is,
schedules.
yeah. And I feel like there's a question I didn't answer, but I know I'm talking a lot.
No, you definitely you answered both of my questions. No, and so let's get into the album, Spirit and Candor. So this is your first album as a solo artist, and it came out very recently. Wasn't it like in October 24th?
I should know the day it came out, 24th, 25th.
Oh my God, I was on the money.
Yeah, I think 25th.
Yeah,
it was a date I was staring at the calendar for a long time, and now that it's passed, I don't even remember when it came out.
Yeah,
I think the 25th.
So much I feel like has happened between the end of October and now.
A lot.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
What was the phrase? There's weeks where decades happen.
Ooh. Yeah. I like that.
And in decades where nothing happens. Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah, we're in the former.
Yeah. So what was cool listening to this album was there was definitely some of like the old sound from Midori. That was the name of the last album. And then there's a lot of new sounds. Yeah. And it was really cool to hear your voice. You're a great singer, by the way. I loved hearing just like, because I was hearing Brielle a lot. Not that she's not amazing. She's amazing.
She's great.
But it was cool to just hear almost like kind of your take on what you want High Crime to be now.
Right.
So what inspired the sound of this album?
A few things. It's a good question. I should have like a pat answer for.
You can come up with it now. Then for other interviews, you can use it.
Yeah, there were things where, so the producer Rick Rubin.
Yeah.
He's. A lot of people might be listening to this know, but he's a super producer who's worked with a lot of people.
Yeah.
System of a Down, Tom Petty, Red Hot Chili Peppers, tons of people. Like a very diverse group of people. And like I listened to podcast interviews with him and read his book, The Creative Act, and he's someone, he'll sometimes give especially when he's working with legacy artists, people that have been making albums for 20 years, he tries to get them outside their normal routine and get them to do something maybe they haven't done before.
Yeah.
And there are a few assignments he gave people, and I remember I wrote these down because I'm like, that's a good idea, I should try that. One of them was just like, write a song that would win your high school battle of the bands.
Ooh.
And when I sit down to write a song, I'm not coming in with an agenda generally.
Yeah.
I'm just, whatever inspiration comes, that's what goes. And he has another thing. If you're Tom Petty, he's like, all right, don't try to write a Tom Petty song. Try to write, what would it be like if you wrote a Depeche Mode song?
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you ask me, like, I know what a High Crime song kind of sounds like. I know what my sound and style is. But if I try to write a King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard song, I'm going to approach it differently. And I gave myself some assignments like that a little bit where so the first song that really the first song on this album is called Traveling Merchant, and it kind of has this like Eastern flavor to it. And that was something, it was an assignment I gave myself. Put your guitar in a weird tuning and just see what happens. And from doing that, I ended up with this Middle Eastern kind of sounding song, which is something I'd never sounded like before. And I was really excited by that sound. And I recorded a demo of it, loved the way it sounded. But the way kind of that song ended, like, that's not really a good outro. Let me try to write a new outro for this song. And as I wrote the outro, tried to rewrite the outro to that song, that became an entirely second song. And then when I had these two songs that kind of flowed into each other, I almost got a little nervous. I'm like, am I making a concept album? Like, I've never done that before, but
Yeah,
that's the thing. When two songs kind of link to each other, you could have
I love
the
that.
second song link into a third, and then you could just kind of have. And I'm like, all right, I've never done a concept album, but let me try, because that seems like an assignment I should give myself. And
Yeah.
now, instead of just writing one or two songs in this weird tuning, what if that's just the sound of this album, is using all acoustic guitars and using this pattern, this weird tuning, and making these weird shapes.
Yeah.
And that just became the assignment. So like have each song flow into the next. And so that first song kind of inspired all the other ones on the album. And I thought I kind of somewhat failed at my assignment because it didn't become a full concept album. By the end of the fifth song is a lot more louder and bombastic than the songs that precede it, and
Yeah.
it felt like the conclusion to what that little story would be. What I started trying to write, like, all right, so that song ends, and then what's the next song in the
Yeah.
concept album? And when I started to write things, like, that doesn't work. That's the end of whatever that story is. So
Yeah.
the album Spirit and Candor is kind of two sides. There's the Spirit
That's so
Suite,
cool.
which is these 5 songs that kind of tell a somewhat lyrically abstract story about the birth of greed and kind of so it's my own version of like a folk tale, and
Yeah.
maybe a tragic story where there's heroes who lose or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the second half are more just kind of like a collection of songs that I wrote that are inspired by the sound of the first side, but the story's not continued.
Yeah, and
I
I
hope that's somewhat interesting. I feel
no,
so,
no, I
yeah,
I
funny
love
talking about
this
myself this
stuff.
much.
No,
Yeah.
I love this stuff, and that's what you're here for. You're probably
Yeah,
not like too. I mean, I'm the same way too,
I
where
can
I
talk about
get
myself a lot.
yeah.
Yeah,
If you give me like the comfortable space, like
right.
totally, because I think that's what's so cool. Because like I mean, even the Beatles, like on Abbey Road, I mean, they had songs like that middle part where all the songs were like
Yeah,
intertwined,
right.
and I think that's super cool. It's like a blend of concept, but then
Yeah.
also just something else just to kind of keep going with this.
Hmm.
I obviously love the guitar. It was so
Thank you.
incredible. But I really want to talk about your song Wake Up Winston
Yeah.
cuz the music video is so cute. And I read the description on YouTube. On the YouTube video, it was cool because you talked about the lyric writing process and I didn't know this how like I can't remember you gave a really good example, but it was like
Uh huh.
you kind of just make
I
random
wish I.
phrases
Oh, right.
and then you kind of eventually go back and put actual like meaningful lyrics in it. And I thought that was really cool that you explained more of like how you actually like the whole process of it because there's a lot of people like me can't write a song that don't know that.
Right. And I'll expand on that. And I say that I talking to other people who write songs, and this isn't just for me, but I think a lot of people who are non-musicians, they probably put a lot of stock in the lyrics, like, oh, this is what this song is about. And a lot of times we're kind of bullshitting
Yeah.
what we're doing a little bit. Like, um, it's just like, oh, those words just go together because they rhyme or whatever it is. And the way I kind of write lyrics, and a lot of people are like this, I'm sure of it, is when you start writing a song, it's stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
Um, I might just be humming something and it'll just kind of be maybe vowel sounds like, and then I'm like, all right, so whatever busi tupa
Yeah.
is, that's 4 syllables,
Yeah.
and then some word will kind of fill that.
Yeah.
And then you kind of just trap yourself into what starts as nonsense in your mind, nonsense, but just by virtue of knowing the English language, the words are going to make some sense as they come out.
Yeah.
And it was something where for whatever reason, as I'm kind of playing these chords, the first lyrics that come out of my mouth are "Wake up, Winston." I don't know anyone named Winston.
Yeah, you said
At
that.
at this point, I don't know if it's about a dog, but it starts to become that way. I don't. At the time, I didn't know any dogs named Winston. I've since met 2 dogs named Winston.
Yeah,
Uh,
sorry.
yeah,
That's really cute. No,
yeah,
Winston definitely is like a dog name for sure.
yeah.
And then
Yeah.
leading into like the
Yeah.
dog music video.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So cute. What prompted you to make the music video the way that it is?
So the music video, it's a compilation of people that sent in footage of their dogs. I don't it wasn't something I put a lot of thought into. I knew I had some footage of my dog, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll make a music video just using footage of my dog, and I didn't have enough footage.
Yeah.
So maybe, oh,
Which is crazy because you think you would have so much of your dog.
a little,
And then
yeah.
you actually look
Well,
through.
my dog's back home, and all the different dogs I've had throughout my life they're all in Missouri. I don't live there anymore, and so I just started like on a whim, just like, oh, I'll ask people to submit footage, and then the back of my marketing mind was like, oh, that might actually be a good idea to get more people may hear the song, and watch the video if like instead of just me saying, hey guys, I put out new music, check it out, if I think like 30 people sent in footage of their
I
dogs.
almost did. Sorry, Hannah. I just
Well, what kind of
did.
dog do you have?
She's a labradoodle.
Perfect. Yeah.
She's so cute.
But a lot of
Anyways.
the people who submitted the footage of their dogs, when the video came out, they shared the video with all their friends and
Aw,
families, like, my dog's
yeah.
in a music video.
That's
So the
so
part of my
cool.
marketing brain is like, people might share this if their dog's in it. So that was something like kind of selfish reasons to solicit footage from people.
No, it's smart. It's
Yeah,
marketing. Did you say barking earlier? Or
I
did I hear that wrong?
it's possible. I
I thought you were
misspeak all
like,
the
oh
time.
yeah, you were like, yeah, my barking brain. I'm like, oh.
I tried to say marketing, but I might
Oh,
have, yeah,
oops, that was my bad.
yeah.
We talk
Well,
dogs and I hear barking.
check the
So,
tape.
yeah,
Maybe I did say barking.
we'll
Yeah,
rewind the tape.
yeah.
That's awesome, and I love the music video, and I
It
think
turned
that's
out kind of
such like
fun.
a
Yeah.
great way.
I specifically asked people to send in like landscape footage, and I got a lot of vertical footage. I had to,
Oh, perfect. Yeah, because some people will definitely send the vertical, and
yeah.
it doesn't.
So then I had to like crop the verticals and some of the crops there were a couple shots. I'm just like, I love this shot so much, I have to keep it in vertical. But my as a video editor, I was annoyed with that.
I totally get that. On my early video editing days, like I would just do any kind of angle, and then I look back at it now, and I'm like,
Oh yeah.
it looks better just on like a screen too to have it just be full instead of just the big
Oh
black
sure. Yeah.
boxes on the side.
Yeah, and I get really into doing music videos for the band. That music video is different, but like the ones where I'm like storyboarding things,
You
I
storyboarded those. Yeah, that's sick.
yeah, and well, there's a crazy thing. It probably won't be out for another year, but there's a stop motion animation music video I'm working on, doing like puppet animation and trying to like, I love movies and stuff, so trying to like figure all that stuff out.
Or
But
like Wallace and Gromit.
it's the same style, or
Yeah.
like I'm kind of comparing it to Coraline.
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
what you're talking about.
yeah,
That's so cool. It takes a lot of patience.
it does. I'm not actually doing the animation, but I'm trying to
Oh,
like,
okay.
I
But it's still.
designed the puppets and kind of wrote the story, and now someone else actually manipulate all of them.
Oh,
But it's
that's
something that's
cool.
been really fun, just getting into the visual side. It's my favorite thing about being a musician, that in addition to being just like someone who writes and records, produces songs, there's so many other ways you can be creative
Yeah.
as a musician. There's album covers, there's poster designs, there's merchandise, there's music videos, whatever. And I'm not this way, but some people can be really creative with social media, doing comedy reels. I would love to do that because I haven't been funny today, but I like to think I can be a funny person.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah.
That's
So all
dope.
the different ways you can be artistic are fun.
Yeah, and I feel like just even as a consumer, like whenever even if it's a song I've heard so many times, if I
Hmm.
see it in the music video and how it plays out, I like want to listen to it more.
Right.
Because I just feel like I
Yeah.
can almost see what's going on in my own head. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but
Yeah.
I just, when I hear it, it almost just like replenishes it, I guess, for me a little bit,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Well, because I guess just when you think of music just as an abstract, like unless you have, oh, what's it called? The thing where you hear music and you visualize synesthesia and you see
Mm-hmm.
colors or things like
Yeah.
that. I don't have that. Most people don't. So when you kind of think of music, it is just kind of an abstract thing. But if you can mentally pair it with some kind of visual, whether it's just an album cover or a music video, there are certain songs when I hear the band Talking Heads, their music
Heads.
videos are stuck in my head too, because Once in a
Yeah.
Lifetime is so iconic, or the Burning Down the House video is stuck in my head. All their videos are actually big inspirations to me.
Yeah.
So like when I think of those songs and listen to the songs, the visuals pop in my head too. And it's a thing where it can make a stronger connection with you, because there's, I guess, just more
Yeah.
tactile things to latch on to.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of going into
I feel like I'm philosophizing a lot.
no,
Yeah.
that's what this what
Yeah.
this podcast is here for.
I feel
Especially with
more
music, I
important
feel
than I
like
actually am.
no,
Yeah.
I feel like music is so philosophical too, in a sense, depending on like how you look at it. But getting into because you work at, do you still work at Space 101.1?
I do. Yeah.
So like, is that a public radio station?
Yeah. So we can, because you've spent a lot of time in radio too. So I was excited to talk about this, whether
Yeah.
on mic or off mic. Yeah. So it's a non-commercial public radio station, and it's what's called a low power FM station. So
Yep.
the actual reach, if
It's
you're
very
tuning in on your
small.
car, radio is pretty small. But like most radio, you can stream it online anywhere through the website and things like that. But yeah, I've been a DJ there for a little over a year. I
That's so
host a local
cool.
music radio show and have gotten to feel more invested in the local community by people sending me music. And it's a funny thing where, like, so I've been playing shows in Seattle for almost 10 years now. Basically 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and like I've met, I see a lot of the same people. When I go see a local show, I know I'm going to bump into people I know.
Yeah.
It's a small enough scene where I know a lot of people, and I feel like I know the music scene. And I've hosted this local music radio show for over a year, and I'm amazed how every single show I do, I'm finding new local artists that I've never heard of
Yeah.
before. There's a lot more going on, and people sending me things, and I'm just learning about the scene in a way that I've, despite being a part of it for a long time, it goes so much deeper than I ever knew.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And I noticed that too, where I'm like, I've heard everybody. You
Right.
really haven't. It's
No,
just the
yeah.
same with even just music that you find on Spotify. You think you've heard everything, but then you hear something new that just blows your mind.
It bums me out that it's very possible what could be my favorite artist of all time I'll never discover.
That's
Yeah.
a very good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
So like, do you want to like plug, do you do a show like every week?
Yeah, so every Tuesday on Space 101.1 FM, Tuesday 7 to 8 p.m., I host a show called Northwest Orbit. I'm the DJ,
Perfect.
and I play local
I'll
bands.
put it on the
and-
screen so people know where to
Perfect.
find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do a lot of the just flashing images of things like that. Yeah.
I try.
fun, yeah.
Gives it some flavor,
Yeah.
and it's fun for me.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, that's so sick though,
Yeah,
because
so I
know
do that, and then I also I'm talking over you, sorry, but
no, it's okay.
then like space one, there's definitely some things where they've taken the KXP model where they also invite local bands to play live on the air. It's how I got involved with space. They invited High Crime,
Yeah, I saw
play-
those videos.
yeah, to do their version of like a KXP in studio performance.
Yeah.
And I selfishly asked, "Oh, can I mix my own session?" Which I didn't do that good of a job doing.
Was it the
When
one
I
where you guys
listened
were in the
back.
cathedral,
Uh,
or is that something else?
that's a different thing.
Okay.
But I love that too.
That one's cool.
No, it's just a small little lobby for Space 101 we played. There's like a staircase behind us.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so I asked if I could mix my own audio for that. And then they're like, "Oh, we actually need someone to mix future sessions. Do you want to be involved in that?" And I'd been a studio recording guy, just like an amateur guy who records my own band, but I'd never done live sound before. I'm like, "Sure, you're only doing these like once every couple months. Like, I'll volunteer my time and like learn how to do that
Yeah.
and start doing live sound and learn how to do that. Just get that under my belt." And through that, then got involved in space in a lot of other ways. Became the radio. Yes, I'm talking way too much about it.
No,
but yeah,
you're good. I'm listening.
yeah, it's a fun place where I get to be involved with local bands in a lot of ways. I'm either recording and mixing their sounds, or I'm playing their music on the radio, or I'm starting to produce shows where we invite other local artists to come in and like take over the station for an hour,
That's so
and like
cool.
they get to be a guest DJ, and I work with them on that. So it's a lot of ways for me to like network and meet other musicians in the scene, which is what I want to be doing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what I love about radio. It's like, if you're a huge music lover, it's like everything you love about music in one spot.
Yeah.
So I guess I want to know what's next for High Crime. I know you have a show at Connor Burn coming up on November 20th.
That show I'll quickly plug because that also happens to be my birthday. I'm very excited about.
Happy 33rd.
Third.
Ooh.
Yeah. I thought about doing like a 33 and a third birthday, which is what a vinyl RPM
Yeah,
is.
yeah, that's so
Yeah.
cool.
But yeah, this is the Connor Burns first ever show where they're inviting people to bring their dogs to the show.
What?
Yeah.
Um,
So all the artists were kind of playing quieter sets so we don't disturb the
I'm gonna
dogs too
start
much. But I was
crying.
invited to do that show because this Wake Up Winston song, which has been kind of the surprise hit of the album that people have connected with.
Yeah.
Beyond that, what's next for High Crime? I mentioned I finished this new album that just came out in like 8 months, but I've been sitting on it for like 6. So I've got a
Okay.
bunch of songs I'm excited to
Yay.
keep work on for the next album. And there are a lot of different styles. I don't know exactly how it's gonna go. There's like 3 songs that are like singer songwriter kind of things. There's a few really experimental things.
That's so cool.
It's getting all over the place. I'm gonna try to put out more new music next year. There will be some fun live videos, and hopefully I'll be able to tour the album if I can get a live band of people that want to travel
Well,
around doing
you got
stuff.
people in Canada.
I do, yeah.
You go all the way up to Canada.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah, just
awesome.
my favorite thing is that I get to make music and play music, and I want to do a lot more of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So before we kind of wrap up the interview, I do have a quick game I have everybody do. It's
'Kay.
called Song Association. So how I best describe it is I'm going to give you kind of like a mood,
Okay.
and then you think from your whole discography what would be like.
Oh, so my songs. Okay,
yeah,
got
your
it.
song. And
That,
it
that
could
makes
be
that makes it easier for me.
yeah,
Okay.
really, because it's so funny. Because whenever I do this game, people are like, "This is so hard. I can't remember all my songs." So that's the first time I'm hearing that it's
Yeah.
good.
Well, okay, yeah.
No, yeah, okay. So first one, you need to be uplifted, uplifting.
Serving up the dinner from
Sick.
it's yeah.
I love that
I'll
one.
rapid fire it.
No, you're totally
People
good.
can listen to the songs later.
No, you're totally good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sad. You need a good cry. Where?
Um, maybe from our first EP, a song called Ribbons.
I love that one.
Yeah.
Definitely got me feeling some type of way, in a good way.
Yeah.
The next one, you want to take like a nice drive to clear your head. You see
Ooh.
like the mountains, the sun setting, Wheatley. I don't know what I'm saying.
Barefoot Pretender may be a good one for
I
that.
love that one.
That
That one's
is
a beautiful
that was a
song.
breakthrough song in my songwriting. Side note.
You wrote that.
Yeah,
Oh
that
my
one was
God,
mine,
You
yeah.
are amazing. Because
Thank you.
the songwriting is impeccable.
I guess I'm
and the
selfishly
music.
picking all the songs I've written.
Oh
but yeah.
well, I get it. I
They're
get
the
it.
ones I connect to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wintertime. It's getting chilly.
Ooh. There's probably something on the.
Sorry.
All right, that one is a little bit harder.
It's okay.
Might go. Song on the new album called "When We Try." It's not
Yeah.
lyrically, it's not about that, but there's these kind of cascading guitars that happen that they almost sound like icicles to me.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because it was like I was listening to it and I was like doing stuff in my room and I heard it and I was like,
That's
What
one
is that?
obviously if you listen to music really loud, that sounds better. That one in
Yeah.
particular sounds really good loud, I think.
oh yeah.
It's a quiet song, but like hearing it loud.
I just love it loud in general. That's
yeah.
why probably your hearings are shot, huh?
Yeah.
Last one. Falling in love.
Ooh. I've written a few love songs. Green Stem is kind of from the new album. Is definitely kind of a love song. That might have to be the answer. Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because a lot of my songs that are about love are the more tragic side of love.
Yeah. It's
Um,
always like, yeah.
And that one does have some more kind of romantic feelings to it. Lyrically, I think it's about getting over someone, but there's still getting over someone, but like you'll love them forever kind of thing.
Yeah.
And just like that, I feel the love in that song.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because, if you really love someone, you're not ever going to unlove them.
Right.
You
right.
know, obviously, love can mean all sorts of things. It doesn't have to be romantic. It can
Yeah.
be like just on like a human level.
Yeah.
But I do notice that with musicians saying that they have a lot more like heartbreak songs. Well,
Yeah.
because like my boyfriend,
That's just been my experience.
yeah, like with
in life.
James, I'll like mess
Yeah.
with him, be like, when are you gonna write me a song? And then he was like, well, I only write songs if like a girl breaks my heart, so you're lucky I haven't written a song about you. And I'm like,
Right.
that's not an excuse, but I get it.
Actually, there's a new song that isn't released that what's it called? There's a lot of working titles. It might be called
Ooh.
Carnival Fish. It might be called Aquarium. It might be called something else. But that one is a really that's a proper love song. I need to look up what the
Yeah, I know. I'm
lyrics
like,
are.
when's it coming out? I'm curious.
Yeah, yeah. I'll look
Oh,
up.
you'll have to figure that
I'll
out.
look up the lyrics on my phone because yeah. That will hopefully. I know it might be on the chopping block. Who knows? Like,
Yeah, you'll
I'm
figure it
excited about
out.
the song now, but after you record it, and like, oh, that's garbage. It might not come out.
Yeah,
But right
yeah.
now, I like it.
That's awesome.
I'll play it live at the Connor Burn November 20th.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wait, so like, okay, just a quick question about the dogs.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have to like have a waiver signed, or you could just bring them in?
I think you can just bring.
Oh
I
my
obviously know
gosh.
if you have a dog that bites people, don't bring your dog.
Oh no, she
But
doesn't.
like,
But don't
yeah.
bring your dog if
Right,
your
yeah.
dog bites. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's just
That's
just
really
come
special.
come
You're
hang out.
doing it so like they don't get
I know,
overstimulated with
yeah.
the loud. Sorry, I got like a little emotional when you said that. I'm like, stop! I love dogs so much. I'll probably just go just to see the dogs and you,
Yeah.
obviously.
Is James still working door at Connor Burn a little bit?
Sort of.
It's mainly Sundays I see him there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been pretty like.
And I think this is a
stagnant.
Wednesday show.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That means we can both go then, and we
Yeah,
won't be working.
Perfect.
Okay, so we're wrapping up the interview. Do you have any plugs, final thoughts? Look at the camera, let the people know where they can find you, and also the Connor Burn Show.
Yeah. Wow, if you've made it to the end of this interview, thanks. Yeah. I've talked a lot. Yeah. No, the things any musician you like, whether it's me or someone else, there are free things you can do that support people. The dumb things like following on Instagram. I'm at High Crime Music. Following on Spotify, boosting numbers. That's free for you guys, but actually can make a difference for us. Like all those things, YouTube subscriptions, all those things. Do those for people you like. Yeah, because that can help us. And if you want to do more, there is like Bandcamp and things like that. But no, like as a musician, I just want my stuff heard. Stream it on Spotify. That's all I can say.
Are you on Apple Music as well?
We're everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everywhere
Apple
you find
Music will give us more streaming royalties, so do that one.
Ooh.
I think that's
I
right.
didn't
Is
know
that right?
that. I'm a huge Spotify girl, but James is
Yeah.
a huge Spotify guy, so maybe that's why. But I also heard the quality on Apple Music is better.
That's what I hear. I don't really use either. I still have a massive iTunes library. I have
No
MP3s in my
way.
computer, and I listen to those a lot.
Gosh, I miss
Yeah.
that. Actually, I don't miss the iTunes day because it was sort of expensive.
Right.
I remember when the songs went from 99 cents to $1.25. I'm like, okay.
I illegally downloaded a lot. There weren't that many songs I properly bought from some smaller artists. My
Yeah.
favorite people I did. A lot of YouTube to MP3 converters back in the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely like downloaded like illegally an All Time Low album that was like forgotten about, and
Oh,
like I
nice.
got so scared because my mom was always like, if you download things illegally, like the FBI is gonna come to our house," and I didn't. I was like, "Oh no."
Well, the big I still use iTunes a lot, and I know we're done. We may cut it here already, but
Oh no, we're
yeah.
not. We're not done until I say we're done. Well,
God.
until Blake says we're done.
Yeah.
Sorry, Blake.
I know there's just so many things that aren't on Spotify. Like whether they're live
Yeah.
releases or they're demos that bands have put out on like just Bandcamp exclusives. There's so many things, or some weird international. I've randomly gone to a lot of obscure 70s Japanese music.
I know what
And
you're talking about. This
It's
is
like
so
it
fire.
it's just a little before City Pop. City Pop everyone's obsessed with now, but like mine's just a little before City Pop.
Ooh,
I feel like I have to. I'm still in the cool guy niche.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
But your music better.
But like
better
some of
than
the stuff
everyone
is
else.
just on YouTube and it's not on Spotify. So like
That's true.
yeah,
I noticed that too.
yeah.
And then do you
Or
want
if they are on Spotify, it's all in like the Japanese kanji, not
Yeah.
in the. So like my keyboard doesn't do that.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And then do you want to plug Connor Burn one more time?
Yeah. Connor Burn's where I played my first ever show with High Crime. So Connor Burn, November 20th, I'll be doing a solo set there, and then we'll be doing live full band stuff. Hopefully not too long after. Thanks,
gonna-
Natalie.
Yeah, thank you. Just one more quick
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Okay, and then we'll stop. Sorry, Blake. Um, so like the dogs, like,
Yeah,
are you gonna do like a meet and greet for the dogs?
Ooh. We should do like some kind of like
Like bring them like little bones.
well, almost like a fashion show on stage where it's like
Oh,
the
yeah.
not a cat walk, but a dog walk.
That would be
Yeah,
so cute.
yeah, we'll
I'm
have to do that.
so excited for
I
that.
should have some kind of plan. I don't have a dog with me in Seattle, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess
But
you'll figure it out
I
when you
hope
get
people bring
there.
their dogs. And
Hopefully people will hopefully the dogs will bark after each set.
you're right. Yeah.
All right, thanks Mitch so much
Thank
for
you so
coming in.
much.
This was such a fun conversation. It's that 206 Sound podcast. I'm Radio Natalie, and we'll see you next time.